of the Michigan versus Arkansas State game. Davis Warren gets the start. Hey, not a single ball he threw hit the ground, Zach. Unfortunately, the 3 incompletions he had hit the other team, and it stuck to them. So 11 for 14,
It stuck to them.
122 yards, 3 interceptions, QBR. Remember the days when Michigan fans were talking about J.J. McCarthy QBR? I mean, don't get me wrong. He had outstanding QBRs. Davis Warren does not. 21.8.
Still better than Mike Wright. Still better than Mike
Yeah,
Wright.
that's better than his -1 he had that one. Jeez. I listen, I'm with Yankee. The Ohio State fan in me is like, no, keep him, but the Big Ten fan in me that, is like watching and trying to be objective about the Big Ten. I agree. Davis Warren, I send him far, far away because he's just not looking good. Now, Zach, it's important to talk about. Is it Davis Warren or is it the coaching? Because I think the coaching deserves a lot of blame here as well, but I'm really curious
Yeah.
your thoughts. Is it Davis Warren? Is it the coaching? What do you think?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, all the above. Well, it's interesting. I was listening to a different podcast, Kings of the North, which Doug Lesmerises, Bill Landis, who I think are phenomenal, phenomenal guys. But they made a joke. They're like, if you got the top 100 quarterbacks to audition for the Michigan quarterback job, would they tell all of the quarterbacks in the Michigan quarterback room, aside from Jaden Davis, who's obviously for the future, would they all tell them to go kick rocks for the other top 100 quarterbacks? And they were like, yeah. And so I don't think it's just Davis Warren. Like Jack Tuttle, I know people are like, well, maybe he's going to get healthy. Guys, if your hope is Jack Tuttle, I got news for you. You're going to want to send him on the space shuttle too. And Alex Orji, like I get that the talent, like the athleticism is exciting and tantalizing, but he can't throw. That's why he lost the job in the first place, or it didn't get the starting job. So it is part quarterback problem, but again, I think the coaches really thought they could just plug and play and be fine, and that's what we heard from the Michigan beat all offseason. We heard we don't need to go to the transfer portal for wide receivers. We don't need to go to transfer portal for quarterbacks. We don't need to do anything. We can rely on our depth that we have, despite the fact that we lost 44 guys. And like, I think we drank that Kool-Aid to a little bit. They have not developed like I thought they did. They don't have the depth, and their schematics are awful. Like they don't tackle. And I'm like, people were saying after the game, and I know we're talking offense, but I'm going to shift to the defense for a minute. People were saying, well, Arkansas State scored in garbage time. And my rebuttal to that is that's your depth that keeps your first stringers fresh. What do you think's going to happen when you play USC next week
Well,
and
and I
Kenneth
would
Grant gets tired?
it would be different if you didn't ever play those guys and that was just them getting in. Amir Hall was playing all game. I mean,
Yeah.
these guys they had in, these guys were playing all game. Granted, yes, they were getting more time at the end, but still, like Amir Hall is not somebody that doesn't play. And there's a very real conversation that needs to be had about starting Amir Hall over Jair Hill because Jair Hill ain't it. I mean, he is not. I don't know if he just doesn't understand the defense or what's going on with him, but he has not looked good so far. And that's what Texas basically did is they just picked on Jair Hall or Jair Hill the entire time was just pick on him because we don't want to throw Will Johnson's way. Will Johnson is a very good corner, probably one of the best corners in the nation, if not the best. I know NCAA
Yeah.
football ranked him as the #1 with their rating, #1 player in all of college football with their ratings. I don't know if I go that far, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously other people think that out there. But you're exactly right about like the tackling too. And to me, tackling is one of the biggest indicators of coaching. If you can't coach your guys to wrap up and to go in the right way and tackle, I counted like 3 times where Jayshon Barnum was going in and just leading with his shoulder and just hit the
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
That's terrible tackling. I
Yeah.
understand there are times when like maybe you're falling over or something but he had time to be able to switch it up, wrap up, and get the guy down. And
Yeah.
against Arkansas State, like you can't wrap up against Arkansas State. So I'm not trying to overreact here. They did win the game, obviously, but like to me, and I hear Yankee with like the deficiencies on the line and the wide receiver crew. I hear all that, but like to me, you got to seriously question these coaches. You got to question Wink, because I
Yep.
think that from the standpoint of like tackling and stuff like that, it has to be better. And then also you have to question Kirk Campbell a whole heck of a lot, because what is he doing with this offense? Why in the
Yeah.
world did you choose Davis Warren? The offense has looked better every single time you have given a drive to Alex Orji so far this season. And
Yeah.
I know he doesn't throw the ball as well as Davis Warren does, but he is more dynamic and offers an additional threat. The very first like 5 or 6 plays when Alex Orji was in there, they ran the ball every single time. And guess what? They ran the ball right down the field, because he presents a threat that Davis Warren doesn't.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have a quarterback back there that they have to account for him as well, and not just Mullings, not just Donovan Edwards. So like, to me, it's a no-brainer. I know Alex Orchie can't throw the ball as well as Davis Warren. I get that, but like, for your offense to work efficiently with the players that you have, because the wide receivers aren't all that great,
Yeah.
you have to have somebody dynamic in the backfield. Do you agree or disagree?
Yo, no, I agree. I just think it's almost conceding that it's like conceding your plan didn't work, which I think the coaches have to do at this point. Because this is I hate to use the term dumpster fire because it's
I don't think it's a dumpster
yeah,
fire. I mean, they're
it's not
definitely worse
that.
than they were last year, and that's the hard part, right? We're
Yeah,
comparing them to what they were last
yeah.
year.
Well, but here's the thing. I would dumpster fire is wrong because but I think a lot of Michigan fans thought that this, the continuation of the Jim Harbaugh era would continue, like particularly 21 to 23. And I think the reality is this team looks a lot like the early Jim Harbaugh days. Like you look at 2017, some deficiencies in the coaching, deficiencies at quarterback, deficiencies at wide receiver.
I would say
And
quarterback play for sure looks like. I
yeah,
mean, this looks like John O'Corn,
yeah,
a worse version of Shea Patterson. Yeah,
yeah. And so again, it's not one to one. I it's hard because I'm like, I look at the schedule now and I'm like I'm gonna pick USC to beat Michigan next week. I'm like,
I think
what's
most
their
Michigan fans too, if they're being honest. Like,
yeah. And like we were talking about them as a Big Ten contender, we're talking about them as a playoff contender. Neither right now. And I think in a sense you almost have to blow up what you were doing and just say, okay, we're just gonna run 50 times a game and play action, 3 or 4 times off that.
yeah, well, and that's my biggest thing with Davis Warren. I tweeted it out earlier. Davis Warren has been horrid on play action so
Yeah.
far this year. Absolutely awful. And they've only ran play action like a handful of times. I think they've run play action like 12 or 15 times so far this year. You're telling me you're 3 games in, and Michigan, which lived off play action all of last year,
Oof.
they are doing like I said, like there's like 12 or 15 play action pass plays for Davis Warren so far this year, and he's been absolutely awful in play
Yep.
action. You can't do that if you're Michigan. I get the line is not as good this year, but like that is one of the staple pieces of Michigan the past few years with what they were able to do on offense, was being able to trick the other team with, how good the running game was. Granted, the running game is not nearly as good this year because, let's just face it, they don't have the offensive line. They don't have Blake Corum and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it, I mean, it's tough. I think the toughest part is, at least for this team, is that we are comparing them to last year,
Yeah.
right? We are
That's a good
looking at
point.
Michigan last year and saying this is supposed to be the continuation of last year. It's not. I mean, are they a dumpster fire in all of college football? No, they're still a really talented team in certain areas, but they definitely have some weak spots that need to
Yeah.
be addressed. And unfortunately, I don't think the coaching is addressing them properly in my
Yeah.
mind.
Can I add one thought? And I know we got to move
Yeah, go
on,
ahead.
but I think the other thing too is that it has been an Ohio State Michigan conversation in the Big Ten at the top of the Big Ten for the past several years. Now it's an Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, USC, Michigan conversation. And Michigan is sliding. And those other 4 teams are surpassing right now. Now, they got to play those games, right? They don't play Penn State this year, but they got to play those games. But right now, Michigan is the clear underdog to all 4 of those major programs right now.
Yeah, No, for sure, for sure. I mean, if you're looking at the schedule, you could look at what the next because they in the next 4 games they play USC, Minnesota, Washington, and Oregon. Are those their
Yeah,
next
and
4 or 5 games?
Kurt's saying the jug's coming home, so we
I love it. Kurt's calling a shot. I love it, Kurt. I think it's Kurt. I don't know. I never know who's running the
yeah, it
Instagram
might be
account, so
Max. I don't know.
who knows?